Welcome back to a Too Fresh exclusive. I know it's been a little minute, but you know what? We're here today and rock with us. I got a special guest in the house. We had the horror entertainment extraordinaire, Michaela Boyd in the building. What's going on, Michaela?
Hey, what is up? I am super excited to talk about this one. Or maybe I should say super disappointed to talk about this
Ah
one.
man. So, in case you don't know, we're talking about The Woman in the Yard. So, this is a spoiler review. So, if you haven't seen the movie yet and you don't want to get spoiled, you may want to skip this episode for right now. So, if you don't want to get spoiled, you got 5 seconds. In five, four, three, two, one. So, Michaela, do you have any good things to say about the movie?
It had black people. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. I like that it was a movie with horror that centered around black people. You know, that's my thing. So that's
Yeah.
immediately why I had to come support. I like that, they tried to do a horror movie in broad daylight. You don't see that too often. But these are really my only likes. I like the little boy's performance.
What?
But that's about it.
You like the little boy in it? Like,
I
as
liked
a
his
character?
performance. I thought that like the way he delivered the performance of the little
Okay.
boy was done well.
Okay.
You know, sometimes when you get, no offense to certain child actors, it sometimes it comes off Disney.
Yeah.
It didn't come off that way. It felt like I'm really watching
Oh, no.
this teenager.
The performance was
Mhm.
authentic. I just feel like the way it was written within, because like you said, it's centered around a black family. Like, the stuff that he was saying,
It definitely
it
went
wouldn't
flat.
it would not have.
He called her
boy.
the B word, and my whole theory was like, ooh.
Right.
And she ain't do nothing. And we were
Nothing.
like, yeah, he
Bruh.
would have got something, a shoe
Man.
thrown at him, a whooping, a go to your room, something. But
Man.
yeah.
Shout out. So the actor's name is Peyton Jackson. So shout out to Peyton for your performance of Taylor, even though, in my opinion, wouldn't be more realistic within our cultural experience. But you know,
I
your
don't know. Maybe
performance was
there's a
stellar.
family out there that does that looks like us, but I haven't seen it yet.
Alrighty, well, I could say, I mean, it had good cinematography for sure. It had good jump scares in there.
Nah, I didn't jump once.
What?
I didn't jump once.
Man.
Ever.
I think it had some good jump scares in there. It had good anticipation, like, like, oh man, what's gonna happen next, And then it just falls flat, a little bit. Like, what? Come on, man. Like with the dream sequences.
So to make it make sense,
Yeah.
there is basically a loop that they go through. So the girl, when she's like, they go to the attic in one scene, and once that scene's over, she almost enters this loop. So it looks like that she's going back in time to earlier in the day, and you're seeing different actions where she might be the woman in the yard, even though the woman in the yard originally looked different and was played by a
Right.
different actress.
Exactly.
And so I call it a loop because eventually you get back to where we were. And to me, none of that made sense. I was
Yeah.
really trying hard to understand. I was
Right.
racking my brain, and I was
Man.
like, I'm sorry, we didn't explain this well.
Yeah, and I was trying to avoid watching reviews and stuff like that to get it explained to me so that way, we can have a fresh take on it. But after we record this, I'm definitely gonna look at some more reviews and maybe if I can get someone to make sense out of it, because all the people I talked to so far is confused.
I made sense of it. I just didn't like what I made sense of, I feel like. For me, I feel like they were trying to say that the reason Ramona, our main
Well,
character.
hold on. Let's
Okay, we gonna wait?
yeah, let's get
Okay.
so let's talk about the cast first. I know we
Okay.
kind of did that a little bit, but let's jump into that. Let's talk about the character Ramona, which is our main character. So how do you feel about Ramona?
She was mean. She was really mean, honestly. And I felt like, we know she's a liar. She's mean, and she didn't seem like she had any qualities to make her redeemable and make people want to root for her. I felt like she was mean to the son, because I did understand why the son called her the B word.
Hold on.
He shouldn't have, but I understood why he did, because that's what she was acting like.
So why do you feel that way? Why do you feel like she was mean?
Well, first, I understand that she went through a situation where her husband died.
Yeah.
I get that. But she gets mad at the son for essentially, kind of being like, hey, the lights are out. You need to get up. We need to figure out what we can do. She can't charge her phone because the power's out. And, she gets mad that he's like, why didn't you pay the bills or why didn't you do this? And she's like, well, maybe if you didn't break your phone, you could call them. And it's like, to me, that's not his job to call him. It's your job to keep the lights on. Like, and I felt like she was taking that out on him. I felt like also he had to be the adult. I felt like she wasn't really doing, some of the things that she should have been doing. I know she's going through it, but that's no excuse for the teenage son to have to now be that parental figure for you. Also, I felt like a lot of times throughout the movie, he was honestly just trying to help in his own way, the only way he knew how. He said, like, there's this woman in the yard. Maybe you need to get dad's gun. Maybe we need to just go talk to her. And every time she would just get really mad at him. And I'm like, he's just trying to solve a problem. He said, I can drive you since you broke your leg to the neighbor's house. She said, well, no, you're not going to drive. You're underage. Okay, cool. He said, I can walk and I can go get the neighbors while it's broad daylight. She's like, no, you're not going to do that. You're just going to stay here. And I'm like, I just feel like you kept kind of raining down on him in a harsh way. And I just felt like it made her character very mean, very unlikable.
I don't know. I mean, like, you can see like the way it started off, you know what I mean? She's in her bed, she's looking at her phone of her dead husband, and yeah, man, I don't know. I felt like you've definitely felt some type of sympathy for her, especially with her going down the steps in crutches and almost breaking her neck. You know what I mean? Like,
I can empathize, but also say you still wrong. Also, you lied about how the father died.
Come on, Miguel, come on, you gotta follow a format here. You gotta follow a format.
Okay, but that's another reason she was mean.
All right, I got you. All right, well, let's talk about the woman in the yard. What you think about the woman in the yard?
I don't even know what to think about the woman in the yard because nothing's ever explained about the woman in the yard. There's this woman that's just sitting in the yard. She's not really fully explaining why she's sitting in the yard. She gives us, the audience, kind of a hint, talking about Ramona, our main character, has been, wishing for something. But it's not really explained very well.
Right.
And so that's why it's like, I don't really know what to think about the woman in the yard.
Yeah, I'm still kind of confused myself, and we'll talk about that as it goes on. We talk about the whole entire movie. But yeah, man, it was like she took off the veil. She looked like the demon from Death Note. When she took it off, I was like, man, wasn't expecting that. But yeah, let's talk about David, Ramona's husband. It wasn't in the movie that much.
Me and my boyfriend, we got a running joke that the guy who plays him was also in BMF. And in that movie, he had like cheated on his wife and he got kicked out the house and like he never would fix up the house. There's like a crack in the wall. Mm-hmm. So we see him and we see her when she's going down the steps and there's a crack in the wall. Yeah. And we're just like, Charles, you still didn't fix the wall. And this, So I like the actor. He was cool. He wasn't in it very much, but for the parts that he had, I think he did good. I think that he was honestly trying to be a good husband to Ramona. But it seems like they just weren't on the same page. I don't know. It wasn't very clear either why in a flashback scene they weren't really getting along. I didn't really understand it as a whole picture.
And I can see where you say she's mean because basically he's like, look, I got us a house, I got us, thing was out the city and all that, and she can, do her painting, whatever she was doing, and she still wasn't happy. So I can see your point on that. Let's talk about, I think we talked about Taylor. You want to talk about Taylor or you want to skip to Annie?
I'll just say once again, I think Taylor, he always was trying. And I can't get mad at a kid for trying to do the right thing and stuff. So that's why, to me, even though, there's a little bit of behavior issue, I still think that he was honestly the star of the movie and the real hero.
Yeah, he was stepping up, trying to be the man in the house, you know what I mean?
I respect that.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, let's talk about Annie, which is the youngest, the daughter. What you think about Annie?
Number one, if you've never worked with an actor that young, another really good job. She delivered the lines they were supposed to be the way it was supposed to be, especially with horror. It can be tricky to get them to say things or convey certain emotions that exact way. And she did a great job doing that. Yeah. I thought the character also, I liked how they included her trying to learn how to do R. Yeah. I did understand the importance of that. Okay. And I do think that she did a good job delivering that. And, if you've ever been with a child trying to teach them the letters, it was portrayed accurately.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, she did give a good performance. You know, nothing negative here to say. She definitely did her thing. Nothing, because you know, like you said, like working with kids and trying to get them to portray a certain character without getting out of character. I mean, she did a phenomenal job, a leader every step of the way in the movie for sure. Alrighty, well, let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's start from the beginning. So we start off with flashes of a house. You hear a man's voice say, "I had a dream," sound like Martin Luther King. You hear so you see Ramona on her cell phone, interrupted by Taylor. It's a typical seems like a Saturday morning. Taylor, which is the bratty son to me, complains that the electricity's out and he's upset that he can't play his video games. So what did you feel about
First of
that?
all, he's not upset that he can't play video games. Let me walk you through the struggle. He's trying to cook breakfast for him, his mother, and his baby sister. And he can't start the stove. There's no electricity.
Man,
He's trying to do it with a match. Like he's trying. The dog, he wants to feed the dog, do his chores. He can't feed the dog because there's no dog food. So
okay.
he has to give it slop, is what I call it. I don't know what he gave that dog. He just grabbed something out the fridge and gave it to the dog that didn't look very appetizing. And I think he just really wanted her to know, hey, we kind of have a little bit of an emergency. Like, the power's out. And she's like, oh, so you can't play video games for one day. Big deal. And he's
All
like,
right.
okay, but what about the food in the fridge? That's going to go bad.
Mm,
And that's when she's like, oh, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, well.
Mm. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's what you picked up. Okay. Cause I was picking up that this boy was thirsty, get on some Xbox Live or something. Get on the headset and play some games all day. That's what I got from. But I see you picked that up
He
though.
he he should still be able to do that stuff on a Saturday, but he
Yeah.
also on top of that was still doing chores and quite frankly things that weren't necessarily his responsibility, but we won't get into
Mm.
that.
Okay. All right, so we shift to the house. It looks like a rural area, farm like area. We see Ramona. She's on crutches, so she's injured very badly. She almost falls down the steps. So despite her children's efforts to, like you said, take care of those responsibilities, like making the food, we see it's a stack of unpaid bills. We also see the family dog, which is Charlie. He's barking out where he's barking at something outside, and then Taylor looks outside and notices a woman sitting in her house. So, how did you feel about this whole transition to we see like the everyday, almost seem like the everyday life, or since the tragedies seems like this is something that's not new, except for like the power being out. But how did you feel about this part?
I felt like this was well put together. This showed kind of what their situations like. It gives clues like, hey, financially, we're not doing that well. It gives clues like, before we had this farm, we had the chickens, we had the family dog that people loved.
Mm,
It shows that something has happened to her because, she's on crutches. She's hurt her leg. She can barely walk. So she's not at, her full strength already. So I thought here we started building it up pretty well.
yeah. What was did he put Dorito in eggs, or what did he
Yeah, he
do?
put Doritos and eggs. This why I said he ain't had no business in the kitchen. It's okay though.
Yeah, man. And then this is the part where I kind of felt, I don't know, like for me, I felt the sympathy. So you were looking at it like, man, what type of mother is this? You looking at it from that perspective? I mean, I'm looking at it because she just lost her husband. Her leg is pretty much cooked. You know what I mean? So if she's walking down in crutches and doing her thing and trying to take care of her kids, it's like you dang, like you can't. Like I feel sorry for her.
It's not that I don't feel sorry. I felt sorry, from the information that I had right here in that moment that
Okay.
she somehow had hurt her leg. I thought at this moment she had definitely lost her husband. Somehow it wasn't clear.
Right.
So
Right.
I
Right.
felt sorry that she was missing him, that she could barely walk and she had her leg in that brace.
Mhm.
And, I felt bad that she seemed depressed.
Right.
But at the same time, we know that when we have a family and certain responsibilities, we do have to kind of get ourselves to still keep moving and to do the bare minimum of trying to keep the lights on or something like that.
Right.
And I felt like, while I felt sorry for her as the movie went on, it
Yeah.
started to shrink how much I felt sorry for her. Like right here, I
Dang.
didn't have a huge problem with her. It was just like come on, girl, you got to do better, but it's okay. We're going to get through this.
All right. So the woman appears. So Ramona tells her children to stay in the house while she lips towards the mysterious figure. The woman is draped in black, unmoving. Ramona calls out, asking, who is she? Does she need help? The woman finally speaks and says, "Today's the day. You called and I came." So she raises her hand, or she shows her hands, which has dripping blood. How did you feel about this part?
So this is when we start to kind of raise suspicion. This is when that first horror aspect comes to it. And I didn't mind what we were doing. It's
Mhm.
just that after, I felt like we didn't do a good job of continuing this suspense that we're starting to build. And I just started to get more confused. But right here in this moment, I felt like this was a good setup.
Yeah. And I also like how the part when she says, my husband gonna be back any second now, and then she says, "We both know your husband's not gonna come back." I thought that part was
That
pretty
was
funny.
good. That's why I was
Yeah.
getting excited. I was like, oh, we at that moment.
Alrighty, so Ramona hurries back inside. Panic, confusion settles in. So the dog starts barking, and then we just see like a red streak of strays in the chicken coop. Um, so how did you feel about this particular part right there when we saw it looks like the chickens are dead, the dog is dead, and she just skips her way into the house. You know what I mean? Like, what did you feel about that part?
I was still sitting here like, okay, we're starting to see, what this woman can do. There's a hint that somehow she's able to kill this chicken and this dog from
Yeah,
far away because she did not move. She's still just sitting in these people's lawn. And
right.
so I was like, okay, we're getting into something good. She's rushed back into her house. I'm at this point where I'm wondering, okay, like, what's she gonna do next? Is she gonna like lock the kids up in their room? Is she gonna
Mm.
call somebody? So right here, I'm like, okay, we're still doing good. I want to know more.
Yeah, man. When I saw them chickens, I was like, oh man, like this woman not playing. Like she really got some superpower. She can move the shadows, and she just playing with them
And it was a
right
lot of
now.
chickens.
Right, right. Yeah, she's just playing them right now. So yeah, like we said, the woman uses shadow magic to attack Charlie, which is the dog. The dog vanishes, so it's assumed that he's dead at this particular point. So tension among the family starts to speculate. The woman might be dead or hiding something horrifying beneath her shroud. Ramona insists that she's just a elderly woman from a nearby nursing home, but something about Ramona's voice suggests she knows more than what she's just saying to her children. So again, you're talking about she's lying to her kids.
Hmm.
So I figure this is probably the point where you start to dislike her, or what do you
This
think?
is the point where I start to be like, what is she hiding?
Yeah.
I had a theory about what she could be hiding, but I was just kind of still trying to figure it out. So I wouldn't
So
say I started disliking her right here. It was more so a little bit after this,
okay.
but I was, kind of just quizzical, like, okay, what's happening next? Why isn't she running or sprinting out
Right.
the house?
So what was your theory?
My theory was that she had possibly known this woman or the spirit and had called on her to kill the kids. That was my
Mm.
theory.
Why do you think she wanted to kill the kids though?
I suspected because of what the woman in the yard said. She said, "You called on me and I answered." And I was like, what if this takes, a really dark twist where she,
Mm.
called on them to take the kids away,
Yeah.
maybe in exchange for her husband even or something like that.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was, that was one theory my brain had, and I'll explain why I started to really double down on that as the movie
Yeah.
goes on.
Yeah, I thought it was like either like something from the past
Mhm.
where she made some type of deal or sacrifice in order to have kids, or like your theory, because it's a lot of things going around with social media saying like if you were in a life or death situation between saving your spouse or saving your kids, like which one would you pick? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? A lot. When I say it's an argument going around where it says, "Hey, I'll pick my spouse over my kids because I can make more kids." You know what I mean? So that would have been a good theory. That would have been a good something good to watch and spark conversation for that.
Yeah.
But of course, it didn't take that.
It didn't take it
It
at
didn't go
all.
that route. All right, so the woman taunts. The woman begins to whisper taunting remarks to Ramona, alluding to David's death. Ramona tries to keep the children away, but Taylor grows more suspicious. So let's talk about the dream sequences. So let's talk about the things from, like you mentioned earlier, Annie with the backwards. Or let's start about that one. What do you think about that part? What do you think?
So we start, and at first, I just thought it was a scene of a child that was trying to learn this,
Mm,
and eventually, while the child keeps drawing the R backwards, she gets frustrated and she
yeah,
kind of yells at the child. And I just thought it was kind of showing that she was stressed and she had her breaking moment.
right.
But I learned later on that this was more important because I was thinking that, it wasn't going to have much of a meaning. And it
Yeah.
actually did.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It was more like I thought this is like where it took more culturally, like when a black parent tries to say,
If Johnny has two apples.
yeah, that part. So yeah, I thought it was like getting to that. So I was like, okay, I see that. But then it gets to a point where, Ramona is about to knife Annie. So what you
And
think about
that's
that?
where my theory started to come even more when I see that she has like some type of hallucination where, after she hugs the daughter, apologizing, saying, I shouldn't have yelled at you for getting your R's backwards. We see her like envision herself stabbing the baby in the back.
Yeah,
And so that's when I really start to be like, oh yeah, she done made some deal and it's trying to get her to kill her kids,
right.
or maybe she wants to kill them in exchange. That's why I really start to double down on my theory.
Mm, okay. And then we also see Taylor getting the keys and attempting to get help. So what did you think about this particular scene right here? Him, saying, "Hey, I'm about to start up this car and see what I can do
I was
to get
proud of him
help."
at this moment because for me, the lady in the chair, she keeps slowly somehow getting closer.
Right.
And the mom's not doing anything. She's getting frustrated, yelling at them. They have nothing to do. I understand why he said, I gotta do something. And
Mm,
so he grabs the keys, he runs to the car, he tries to start the car, but it will not start. And
yeah.
that's when he realizes that she's keeping something from him because
Mm,
he didn't know that the car wouldn't start.
right.
So I liked his actions of what he did here,
Yeah.
but this is also kind of the moment where I was like, okay, so are they just stuck in this house? And if they're just stuck in this house, where are we going? Because I don't think they're gonna be able to walk over to the neighbor's house when they're in, the country and she got her leg broke. So I was really
Yeah.
starting to question where are we going with this?
And then we get to another dream sequence where Taylor's grabbing a gun, locking Ramona in the room, and attempting to kill the woman in black. And then he has a conversation with her. So
So this was another one where essentially uh I can't say I condone children locking their mothers in closets and grabbing guns, but I
yeah,
understand in this instance when somebody is threatening your family, why he
right.
wanted to be quote unquote the man in the house and kind of walk up to the lady and be like, if you do not leave our property, I will shoot. Now, of
Mm,
course, as probably most people would, he was, choking a little bit. I
yeah.
don't think he wanted to pull the trigger. But this is when I
Nah,
thought it
yeah.
started to get interesting again
Yeah.
because then the lady starts being like, oh, you're confused. You don't know the full story of what happened to your father. And I'm like, ooh, okay, is this where I learned like my theory or something else completely different happens that's going to make it more interesting?
Yeah. And then she was talking about the children are ripe enough to eat and all that
Hmm.
stuff. So I'm like, okay, like, dang, she eat children too? Like, yeah. All right, so let's go to the flashback to the car crash. So this is when Taylor confronts Ramona and says, tell me the truth. Tell me like what really happened. And she goes into it. So we see flashes of the car accident. David, he's arguing with Ramona inside the car. So actually they start off in a restaurant, and then she's been where he's I guess he's like saying, hey, I got the house and all this stuff. And she's like, well, you guys got us out the city and got this house and all this stuff, but I'm still not happy. I'm not happy here. And then we see glimpses of the woman. And then as they're driving, we also see I think that's the first time we actually see the figure of
Hmm.
the woman as well. And then they get into a car crash, and it's revealed that she was the one that was actually driving and not David. What did you think about that?
So it was this act and the previous act that really started to make me be like, okay, she's really, really unlikable. Because first you lied to the children saying the father was driving when it was you. Not that we are going to blame you for driving. Accidents and unfortunate events like this unfortunately happen. but it's the fact that you lied to the kids about it. It's also the fact that in that sequence, the husband said to her, like, hey, you weren't happy with our old life. I went to start this new life. We agreed on it together as a couple.
Yeah.
And now you're telling me that you're unhappy. And quite frankly, she made it sound like she was going to leave him and the kids, which I
Right.
was really like, okay, definitely not likable, but definitely proving my theory that maybe she wanted them all dead. Maybe she
Mm.
killed them and said, take the kids too to the spirit.
Dang.
So that was my theory for a while. And I was like, yeah, I'm not liking this woman.
Mm.
But I do want to shout out to the cinematography when she's just like thinking back to the crash and like the glass fragments go past. That was
Yeah.
really, really cool. I like that.
Okay, so you got some more good things to say about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I forgot about including that. That was something good. Like I would like to steal that one day.
All right, so the children are in danger. So the woman's presence grows more malicious. Objects move by themselves. Shadows stretch unnaturally across the house. Strange whispers fill the air, tormenting Ramona and the children. So when you saw this part, did you think, okay, now it's finally here. It's about to go down. The woman's about to get into the house, or were you fed up at this point?
This is when I was like, okay, it was a little slow building up to here, but this is when something's about to happen that will either make the movie or break it for me. So this is
Yeah.
when I was like, okay, this is that moment.
Okay. So Ramona's breaking point. So realizing she's losing control, Ramona makes a desperate decision. She agrees to send the children away if it meant keeping them safe. Alrighty, so I did skip a little bit ahead. Let's rewind a little bit. So let's talk about when they were going up into the attic and all that. So did you think that part was believable?
No,
Like when it was getting
absolutely
traced
not.
all the way to the
Mm-mm.
attic, I'm like, bro.
Somehow,
like,
this is where we start to get confusing.
yeah,
So I want to establish the children can see the woman in the yard.
right,
Ramona can see the children in the yard.
yeah,
So she's a physical being somehow.
yeah,
Somehow it looks like her powers are controlled through the sunlight. So if she reaches her arm, she can affect things inside the house. But they start closing blinds and turning lights off, and that's supposed to stop her. However,
Yeah.
when they get to the attic, she's still able to kind of come to them, and she just presents a physical form in the attic all of a sudden inside the house.
yeah.
And, they start fighting inside the attic. So
And then,
Yeah.
like, why would Taylor turn the flashlight on?
I
If it's-
don't know what she was. They literally said,
Right.
keep it dark. But also at the same time, I'm not gonna lie. What pissed me off the most during this scene is after all the fighting in the attic, the woman in the yard who's now in the house
Yeah.
walks towards baby girl and she's like, "Oh, I will never hurt you." And nobody does anything.
Yes,
They sit
yes.
and watch
Taylor
as
just
she
wa-
takes
yeah,
the
he-
baby. And I'm like, Taylor, what are
yeah.
you doing?
He just-
Mom, what are you doing?
Yeah. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, is this another dream sequence, or does Taylor have sleep paralysis? Like, what's going on, right? Because he's just staring there, like, just looking.
And they
Not-
keep showing him staring, watching
Right.
his sister about to get taken. He doesn't say anything. So I'm like, I guess he froze, but that to me was out of character for his character that had
Yeah.
always been so,
Because he was
Oh, you're
getting
not
bucked.
going to do this.
He was getting bucked the whole
He was.
movie until this particular point where it was time to do something. Well, I don't know. Maybe that wasn't his character because he did freeze up with the gun. It
But
looked like he did.
he didn't hesitate to go out there in the first place and start. So to me,
But
I
he
would
felt
think
like
you would have
more-
tried to throw something
Yeah.
to distract it, but to just sit there and watch.
Yeah.
Even for the mom's character who had been trying to protect them, it was like, where are you? I don't see where you went. I'm confused.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he was more of a talker than actually a doer.
I guess, but he wasn't even like talking. He just was sitting there, to which I was like, I felt personally like it was out of his character to just sit
Yeah.
and watch. I felt like
Okay.
he would have done something at the bare minimum, been like, Mom, do something. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Okay. So do you think at this point is confirmed that the woman in black is actually Ramona at this point, or do you still think it's still confusing
So
or ambiguous?
to me, it was not, it's never made clear. I'm gonna put that out there.
Yeah.
It's never anybody saying this is the woman in black, like this is her. No. It's revealed later on when we go through the loop that I was talking about earlier, when we go through all the events from earlier after baby girl's been taken, that, she says she's part of Ramona's consciousness. To me, I just said she's part of her suicidal ideation. That's how I pictured it. Trigger warning. But to me, that's when they were in that bedroom kind of having that discussion, like, you called on me, that's when it
Right.
was revealed and made clear who that is. I want to take a second though to reveal that when they went through that dream sequence,
Mm-hmm.
she figured out she was in a dream sequence only because the R's in the dream sequence were backwards. Because I feel like that's important for the ending. So keep that in mind.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind because I'm trying to follow. Because I'm at this point, I'm like, I'm lost. I'm still lost. All right, so Ramona's real prayer. So Ramona initially claims she prayed for strength. The woman pressures her to admit the truth. Ramona was actually praying for the strength to end her own life. So that's when it's revealed, like, okay, now we know the reason why the woman in black is actually here. She's trying to get Ramona to kill herself. So what did you think at this particular point when this was like, okay, this is it? This is what we really were going with? Or
I was disappointed because I feel like this was them trying to kind of do a horror almost on mental health.
yeah.
And I feel like as a mental health advocate, there's ways to do it and there's ways not to do it. And this movie to me is a prime example of how not to do it. And I'll tell you why once again at the end. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was made not entirely clear because other people in the audience I could tell were confused that, you know, this was basically her personified suicidal ideations.
Mhm.
So to me, it seems like you're trying to tell me that this is all in her head. It's her
Right.
suicidal ideations. And yet the brother and the sister could still see this form.
Right.
So you're telling me to believe in this world that, you know, we've created that somehow when you have suicidal ideations that it can present in a physical form and just start attacking both you
Yeah.
and other people.
Right.
And somehow, you know, when the light's out, it can grab you and do all these other things. That's where I was
Yeah.
like, that's not making sense to me.
Yeah, yeah. When it got to that point, I'm still thinking like at this point, like maybe she just messed with her in her head. Maybe she's just getting into her head. Maybe this is part of her ability is manipulation. So we get to the assisted suicide attempt. So the woman leads Ramona to a farm. Rifle is placed in her hands. Ramona, overwhelmed, prepares to pull the trigger, believing her children are better off without her. So she starts seeing pictures like, well, she wants to know, or how her children are gonna end up once she dies, and she sees pictures of them, graduating from college, even though the girl can't draw art to save her life. Um, and then you see, them growing up, living, looks like happy lives, getting married and everything like that. So, how did you feel about this particular scene here?
So I was hoping that the one saving grace that they would have is to, you know, somehow realistically, emphasis on realistically, get her to not do it and somehow, you know, beat the woman as
Yeah.
realistically as possible. Because right now, I'm not gonna lie, it was looking rough. Um, and then we cut without any explanation or a gun going off to her just running up to her two kids who she had sent away to
Yeah.
go to the neighbor's house. She's just running up to them like, it's all over. We're
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Everything's done. And he's like, is the woman ever gonna come back? And she said, not today. And then they walk into the house. Magically, somehow the dog's back
Yep.
and he's barking. The lights come on, even though she didn't pay that daggone
Bruh.
electricity bill.
Speak on it.
They
man.
have a name on the house, which they have been trying to pick out a name forever. I don't know how they just got this name, this plaque made on the house.
Yep.
The house is beautiful. There ain't no cracks in the walls. I guess Charles then came back to fix it. And she has a beautiful painting, even though she hasn't painted for what seems like since the husband died.
Yeah.
And then, as the movie's ending, we zoom in and we notice that the R is backwards on the painting where it says Ramona's name. And that told me that none of that last sequence was real. That told me that she probably killed herself. And that this was basically either her, if we want to go real dark, in purgatory.
Let's go.
That's her in purgatory, or that's, you know, possibly just her last thoughts of, you know, what life could have been like before she pulled the trigger.
So
One or
yeah,
the other.
looks like the name of the house is Iris Heaven.
Mhm.
So do you think like that also adds to your confirmation how it actually ended with her actually ending her own life instead of like living, it seems like she didn't do it and she didn't go through with it and picking her children over suicide, or what do you think?
I think she definitely killed herself. I'm sorry. I think that's why everything's so perfect and not explained.
Mm,
Because we know that dog was dead. So the fact that he just came sprinting in, the only thing they was missing was the father, quite frankly.
yeah.
And the fact that the bills came on, we know Duke Energy it ain't turning your lights back on a Saturday night at like 2
Right.
a.m. They not doing that. So she definitely, unfortunately, is not with us today. And she, quite frankly, is just imagining all of this in her last
But do you
moments.
think that's open up for interpretation, or do you think it's like, nah, like she's really gone?
From a filmmaker's point of view, you put that twist in there with the R that you spent a lot of time confirming, and showing us for a reason. And I think
Yeah,
that reason was to show this is not real at the end. And
yeah,
not everybody's going to catch it. My boyfriend didn't catch it. He was confused. He's
mhm,
like, so everybody just happily ever after? I'm like, nah, she did.
yeah, yeah. That was one of the things I was confused on. Like, did the mom actually take her own life in there, and the dream sequences? Like how? Cause like I'm trying to figure out like if she's actually the woman in black, or is the woman in black something separate? And if she's something separate that's going on in her head, how can the children see the woman in black? You know what I mean?
That's the problem I have with it because they tried to tell us, the audience, that this woman in black and her are one and the same. The woman
Right.
in black is her ideations of suicide. Yet, why do the children see it? Why is it picking up knives and, moving things around the house? Why is it doing all of this if it's not real? And we
Mhm.
didn't allude to the fact that maybe she was doing all this. Maybe she killed the dog and the chicken. We didn't
Right.
do a twist like that where it's revealed she's been doing all of this because she's going through problems. It's
Right.
just left open to where it felt like the audience was cheated in a way.
Right. And then she did unalive the chickens and the dog. Like, when did she do it? Did she do
Mhm.
it when she went to the yard and came back? When did this actually happen? Did this happen before the woman was in the yard? That part is kind of like I don't
Also, who
know.
is the little boy talking to out in the yard when he
Right.
has the gun if all of this was her? That's why it's not making
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
I can't make sense of the dream sequence. The whole loop was confusing besides the fact that she knew that she was in a hallucination because of the
Right.
R being backwards. That's the only thing I understood. The rest of it, I don't know.
It could be maybe when Ramona was hallucinating, the boy actually went outside by himself and he's saying, "Hey, my dad, dying didn't seem right." And maybe he did his own investigation. He saw when the car, maybe he was the one that actually unraveled the car and said, "Hey," like trying to put two and two together and get the mom to tell the truth. So
Yeah.
that could be something. What you think? You think that's a stretch or?
Honestly, with this film, you just don't know. Like, it's a possibility, but there's just so many confusing things that
Yeah.
we can come up with a bunch of theories for what it could be. But I
Right.
want to speak to the actual like script writer and director. What
Right.
was the reason for this? What does this
Yeah.
mean? What am I not getting?
Yeah. So if you out there, you see this video, definitely holla at your boy, man. Holla at us. So we definitely want to know. We definitely want to know, like, what was your message behind the entire film? Make it make sense for us, because we're confused and we anticipated. I sent you the trailer. Remember, I sent you the trailer
Yes.
and everything. Like, bro, we
Way
got,
back in January,
yeah.
there's the trailer. He was like, we're gonna watch it, we're gonna
Right.
talk about it.
Yeah.
I saw it and I really, really, really wanted to like love it and have it be my next new favorite horror movie, but I just
Right.
wasn't clicking for me.
Yeah.
And I feel like, yeah, I would just love an explanation so that I can hopefully it'll click.
Right. Right. So what do you think about the message in the film then, if that's what you're gonna go with? Like the mom. So the mom first saw the woman when she was talking about divorce, and then they end up on their way from for dinner. She's talking about how unhappy she is, and then they happen to get into a car crash, which results in her husband's demise. So
I think that suicide is such a hard thing to talk about and portray right in a movie with a message,
yeah,
especially in a genre like horror, because it is such a serious topic that happens a lot.
right,
I feel like this wasn't the way to do it. I would have preferred to see a ending where the mother lives.
hmm
I understand that might have been hard in this case because there was just they made this person like a OP killer in this, in this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have liked a more positive message if that's what we're going for. Maybe a suicide hotline at the end of this or something. It came
did.
off.
Yeah, one.
I didn't see one on the.
It was at the credits. You probably walked
Was
out.
it the
before.
first part in the credits? Because most of us, well, first of all, we were one of the few people that stayed for the credits. A lot of people was leaving early.
Nah, I definitely, yeah. That's why I was kind of like, bruh, like.
I wish it was
Yeah.
something we saw immediately after and then credits. Because for me, we were sitting there, be like, okay, that's it, and we started
Yeah.
talking about it, but we didn't really see it there.
That's when I started processing, because I was processing the movie, and then when I saw that the suicide hotline joint, I was like, man, this feel like an after school special. Like that's when I was kind of like, bro, like I felt like a bait and switch, and it felt
Yeah.
like that didn't work. So it kind of like remind me of the Joker, the first one that won the Academy Awards and all that.
hmm
So Joaquin Phoenix. So that one, I think was pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, even though it wasn't like what we expected it to be, but it also, it worked. This one was like, it seemed like it attempted to do it, but it didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't pay off. There was a lot of confusing aspects of
Yeah.
it. The ending, I don't know. I don't know if we should depict, like, yeah, she ain't make it. If we're trying to be like, hey, you need to talk to somebody, you can overcome it. I would have preferred something where they overcame it with a more positive message.
Yeah.
Because, man, if I'm depressed and I see that, I'm more depressed. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Somebody, I was like reading comments when I kept seeing trailers for this over the weekend, and people seemed pretty mixed. But one person was like, well, y'all won't be saying it if it was a white family that starred in it. And I started thinking, like, what you think? What you think on that? If it was a white family, do
I
you think
can't
this would've
say
worked?
what other people would do, but I would say the same thing if it was a white family, a Mexican family, an Asian family. What was that? That wasn't the message that I think we needed to send, especially when I feel like these suicide rates keep increasing, especially
Right.
with our black men.
Mm,
And I feel like we gotta have, like, if we're gonna do these messaging, it might be good to bring in certain counselors who have information about that and see
Right.
a respectful way to portray that, and mental health advocates, partners, and stuff like that.
mhm.
I also think there probably should be some type of like warning or some type of
Yes.
situation,
Yes.
either in the trailers,
Yes.
because
I said the same thing.
yeah, going to that and seeing something that's a heavy topic like that,
Right.
that can be a lot for people who do struggle with that, or
Right.
people who was like, oh, I wanted to see something just fun, scary, not scary.
Right. And I feel like they should have at least attempted to, do that in the trailer. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I can go in there and maybe have a different state of mind. Cause I'm like doing this review, and a part of me is like, dang, I feel, I don't want this to come off insensitive, but I also feel like I was duped, you know what I mean, at the same time. Cause I go in there thinking one thing and leave out feeling, like I seen something that I wasn't expecting to see, and not in a good way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I feel like I'm glad that we have Black people in horror and that we're trying to tackle these mental health issues. I just think that, like I said, we need to have the right people who can educate us on certain things like that when we're trying to bring these visions to life, so we can do it in a way that is not only
Who wrote-
respectful,
I'm about to
but
look up.
but also makes sense.
who was the writer of this film?
That's a good question.
I'm about to look that up right now.
And the director.
I know the director. Let me see. Oh, man. But I ain't gonna hold you. Like the way it was written.
Sam Stefank.
Oh, he sounds white. Wanna take a wager?
I got 10
Yeah.
years.
Dang, man, you don't show his picture.
You probably got to type in his name and then put it into Google.
All right. I don't mess with Bean. Let's see, get some images in here.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah. My question is, was this meant for a Black family, or did a Black family just win the role?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
That's a
Cause
good
like the way it was
question.
written, it was like,
Yeah.
bruh. And I don't want to throw them stereotypes and nothing out there like that, bruh. But some of them things Taylor was doing, that one,
Yeah.
calling your mom the B word, oh, that's the icing on the cake. I see all the other stuff, these the new age parents, don't want to repeat old habits and try to break those generational curses. I could see that part.
I ain't
But
say
once
she got to whoop him for saying that, but there definitely should have been like, no, you're in your room. You're not gonna disrespect
she
me.
should have put one of them crutches up his ass for that, bro. Like that was
Also, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think he would have. I don't know about you. I couldn't get away with that. I knew
Nah,
not to say that.
I
I
don't.
might think it in my head.
Right. Nah, I beat one of them crutches. I ain't gonna hold you. Not saying which parent would do it, but
Both of them.
exactly.
What you call your mama?
Man.
Dead daddy come out the grave like, what you call your mama?
Man, right. Yeah. I want to. So this, you think this? So this is actually him?
I think that's actually.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That sounds about
Okay,
right.
who's the director though?
Not the director. Damn, what the director direct? That like a black name. What you want to put the wager on it? What?
Nah, that ain't that black.
Hold on.
Oh wait, no, that's the director. So who was the writer?
Man, this is okay. All right. Well, either way, this is the problem. This is the problem, because you know what? I ain't trying to be rude, but this is the problem, man. Because no black family will let that stuff slide, bro. Like, I'm
There was
sorry.
definitely a couple things that was
that
like,
would have been, yeah. They wouldn't slide like that, man.
I don't know. They might have should have asked the actress
Yeah.
or the son about, would you
The
do this? Would you
cast,
say this?
right.
You know.
Nah, they was trying to get that money. I get it though. I get it. Cause we want to be in these spaces. We ask them to be in these spaces, and so like we gotta do what we gotta do. But
I'm still
sometimes
challenge y'all to still do better. This ain't even just about the black family. This is also about just the suicide part of it. Like,
yeah,
we got to portray certain things better.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would. Yeah, that. Yeah, yeah. Like if it would have, I think it would have worked if some of those things would have made sense, like them dream sequences and stuff like that. I'd have been like, okay, in this Blumhouse, the very reputable company, they always come out with some hits, but
everything they make, I go out to see because it's Blumhouse.
Yeah, and it's like when you see that, I'm like, okay, I rock with it. It's gonna be good. It's like when Marvel first came out and it was like a Marvel movie. Like, okay, I know it's gonna be good and it's continuity to the MCU. But to come back to The Woman in the Yard, yeah, I was thinking the same thing because it was Blumhouse, and it was also a black family, which I haven't seen in a long time in a worldwide theatrical, or at least nationwide theatrical release. I mean, it felt like a breath of fresh air, moving in the right direction, and then it just knocks us back 3 steps, you know what I mean, after you see it. So that's just my opinion. Looks like IMDb, almost 6 stars there. So looks like it's mixed, man. It's a mixed bag. 41% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not looking too good.
Like I said, I can tell you people was walking out the theater at mine. Like,
yeah, that's crazy. So like, I didn't see nobody walk out, but it wasn't like usually at the movie edge, you could look around the crowd and gauge their energy, and the energy wasn't energy. It wasn't there. People looked depressed. People looked like they were disappointed. They looked mad. They looked like zombified.
Yeah, like I said, it wasn't scary. Like, the dude next to me eating chicken wings ain't never scream or drop his chicken wing. He was just munching on it like.
Right, you know what? And the crazy part is, I go into the movies, doing the right thing. What I mean by that, I go in, I buy my ticket, I get my popcorn, I get my large drink. You know what I mean? And I'm not, like how you say the guy with the chicken wing. I'm not going there bringing Popeyes in there, nothing like that. I'm going there doing the right thing, and that's expensive. It's expensive. My wife and I, that's a $50 that's a $50 bill right there.
It's a date night.
Yeah. And I'm like, dang, man, like, this is the results I get. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm anticipating this movie,
I was
since
sitting
I seen
there
the
like,
trailer.
dang, I should have brought some chicken too.
Right. Some Chipotle, all that.
Yeah, I'm hoping for better results when we decide to do this again for Final Destination Bloodlines.
Nah, you gotta do one for Sinners.
Oh, you're right. We gotta do Sinners
Yeah,
too.
I'm pretty sure that's gonna be good though.
I feel like it has Michael B. Jordan in there,
And Ryan
and it has
Coogler.
Ryan Coogler, and they're like the perfect mix of
I
like
never seen a bad movie from them.
yeah, they're the perfect mix. When they work together, I feel like
Yeah,
they just make magic. I love that
yeah,
duo.
yeah, yeah. We gotta check out that new. You seen a new scene for it trailer?
No, I
For
didn't see
the
the
not trailer, but for
I didn't see
Sinners.
a new scene from it. I saw the most recent trailer.
Okay, let's do one of that. But yeah, man, let us know what you think. If you saw this whole video, we're at the end. Let us know in the comment section what you think of the movie. Did you think it was a thumbs up, thumbs down, or were you pretty mixed about it? Let us know in the comment section, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and always remember to stay fly, stay humble, stay fresh. Peace.